So today we are going to talk about clearly defining expectations and boundaries and rules in homeschool. As you can see, I'm sitting in front of my homeschool closet. It's because my bed's not made, my sheets are still in the wash. I am a typical mom and I have multiple things going on often at one time. So please excuse where we're at right now. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the video and we're going to talk about it. My name is Amanda from Learning to Love Well, and if you are new to the channel, this is a channel all about homeschool from a biblical worldview. We talk about the Bible, we talk about homeschool, we talk about curriculum, we talk about the practical. Today is definitely the practical. If you are new to homeschool, sometimes the things don't work in our homeschool because we do not have clear expectations and rules for homeschool. This is oftentimes overlooked because I think sometimes we feel like things just flow from our home. And although that is true, like our chore schedules and our things like that definitely do flow from our home, there are some guidelines and expectations in homeschool that can be very beneficial to keeping you on track. So for example, I know that one of the things I felt like the Lord taught me with parenting was how clearly defined rules can help you parent your children. Now, I know some people may think like, oh, well, of course, but when you are in the throes of life, sometimes the things that make the most difference are the things that we overlook. There is no shame in needing help or reaching out and asking for help if things are not working. In fact, it's a sign of strength to know where your help comes from. I will always tell you on this channel, go to the Lord first, pray about it, and then seek people who have been doing things longer if there's chaos or if you are having a hard time homeschooling. A lot of times homeschool, if it's not currently working, it just needs to be tweaked a little bit, because I do believe that there are moms are very capable of schooling their children. I know that people may disagree with me, but when I first started homeschooling my children, I didn't have multiple degrees, but I did know how to read and I did know how to do math. Like at first I wasn't even really praying about my curriculum, if I'm honest. I was a baby Christian and I wasn't praying about everything. And yet God somehow got me through every single bit of what we're doing now. You grow right alongside your children. And one of the things I feel like the Lord taught me in parenting, and it wasn't even in homeschool, but in parenting, that helped me so much was to define the rules. So I remember sitting on the beach one day and my kids had just, I can't remember if it was Nerf guns or if it was squirt guns, but they were squirting each other in the face and they were both unhappy and I didn't know what to do. I had 3 babies. I think they were all pretty small. I think they were all under the age of 7 at the time. And I think I had 3. I can't remember if I was pregnant with my 4th or not. And I was sitting there and these kids were really upset. And I was like, Lord, I don't know what to do. And I just felt like the Lord said, define the rules. And this was I just felt like, oh, that makes sense. Like from then on, I was just like, okay, kids, and this is still the rule, by the way, to this day in the house, that if someone else doesn't have a gun, you don't shoot them. And I'm talking about with Nerf guns, and I'm talking about with like squirt guns. We're not handing them real guns. And so like if they're doing a Nerf battle or they're doing squirt guns or something like that, or even water balloons or something like that, you can't hit somebody else in the face, and you cannot hit somebody or engage in a battle with someone who does not currently have a Nerf gun. And we've kept that set of rules throughout, and it has been very, very helpful for them to know a clearly defined set of rules and expectations for them to follow. Some people may be like, well, of course you need rules, but in homeschool, you need just as much structure. So if you want things to go off without a hitch, there are things that will greatly benefit you. So for example, at the end of the day, I have bins behind me, and like I said, I've talked about it. I think we're going to get carts because they are pretty heavy. Right now we have bins, and at the end of the homeschool day, the kids need to have their homeschool in the bins. But that is the rule. And then because that is an established rule, it can be a rule that's enforced, because I'm not just arbitrarily enforcing things that my kids have no idea what the expectation is. Another thing that we have is that if our children, now someone's going to be like, that is horrible. If our children lose one of their books, it's $1 a day until they retrieve it. Now, that might seem really harsh, but we have gone through whole seasons where our children have misplaced books and they would get behind on a book because the book that they needed, they lost. To replace that book, it costs money. And if they go to college or if they went to the library and lost a book, they would have to recomp that cost. And so it's a way of teaching them that accountability. And trust me, none of my kids want to lose a book if they have to pay money for it. None of them. And so because of that, it teaches them the idea like, hey, okay, losing things costs money. And so they equate the two things, and it helps them to understand that whatever that they lose, they're accountable for. Another expectation is that they need to get their work done. They know that they do not get to go outside and play except on rare occasions before they finish their homeschool. Now, sometimes if they ask or if they have an enormous amount of homeschool, I will allow them to break, because sometimes you just need your brain to settle for a minute. But that has to be an ask thing. They're not allowed to go out inside and play until all their homeschool is finished. Again, except on rare occasions, but they know that they can ask for that. Another thing is their chores in the morning. There's an expectation that they get their chores done. But I have found over the day, having things that are enforced and enforceable because they're already laid down, and schedules and practices in the homeschool helps, because it helps the children to know, one, I know what they're doing. And then two, it helps me to be able to enforce the rules without just making up commands as we go. I will say that if you are putting rules down for homeschool, if you make them clear and you make them enforceable and you make them obtainable, it makes it easy. If you have 1,400 rules, that's going to be a lot for them to remember. But if you have general rules like all homeschool goes back into this spot at the end of the day, that is your responsibility, then it's enforceable. If you have a policy for losing books, if you have a policy for when your homeschool has to get done, if you have project deadlines that they need to turn in, and you enforce those, it can be very beneficial, because your children know what's expected of them. Just like if they went to public school, it would be the same thing. They would have enforceable times and dates that they would need things turned in. And so if you have not looked in or have not sat down with your husband or been prayerful about, hey, I'm in like, how do I get things under control in your homeschool? It gives them that opportunity to rise to the occasion, to meet those expectations, and to feel pretty good about themselves and know how to have responsibility for the things that they need to have responsibility for. I think sometimes, especially in our modern culture, a lot of people think like, oh, well, we make it as easy for the kids as possible. The problem with that mindset is that it doesn't grow them as humans. Like, I'm not raising children that are going to be indefinitely children. I'm raising adults. I'm raising our future generation. For me, I want to raise them, one, in the biblical worldview. I want them to be taught in God's word. And another thing that I want them to be taught is how to take personal responsibility for themselves. Sometimes we will have conversations about the fact that they get to pick their hard. They can either pick to do the hard thing that needs self-control and temperance right now, which is what normally rules and boundaries enforce, or they can choose the hard consequence of what they are going to end up picking if they choose to neglect what they're supposed to do. By doing that, it gives them the option to become stewards of their own lives and to be able to do things that are beneficial for themselves. And so that they do not have to always feel like they're completely dependent on an adult or another person in order to achieve the things that they're supposed to achieve. Personal accountability and knowing that you can do things for yourself and that you have personal autonomy to be able to do the things that needs to get done and to be able to accomplish those things and to be able to actually deliver on those things actually makes a more beneficial human. It actually benefits the child in the long run. I know some people don't believe in chores and things like that, but there are actually studies showing that people who did do household chores and did have chores growing up actually benefit in the long run. In the boundaries and the rules that you set up for your homeschool and your house, If you stop, pray, set up the things that you want them to have in the future. Like for me, I want them to have accountability over their resources, which is one of the reasons that we do the things that we do with our homeschool. I want them to be neat and orderly, which is another reason they have to put everything back. I want them to not look to me to make sure that their homework's done, but them have personal accountability for their own work and make sure that they have the ability to do that. And guys, believe it or not, you can enforce these rules very early. By 6 or 7, they can be accountable for whether or not they get their own homeschool done. And someone might be like, 6 or 7, that's so young. It is amazing how when you do it in a repetition and at first you just kind of like spoon feed it, like, okay, did you get all your homework done? And you put the ball in their court where they're made aware that whether or not they did their stuff or not, how accountable they can be growing up. I have children now that will come to me and be like, all right, Mom, I'm done here. And I'm like, okay, submit it for grading. It's amazing how that can happen at such young, early ages. And they know they're accountable for their work. Like another boundary or rule that we've had set up, if they ever skip their subjects, maybe I'm not able to grade, maybe I'm out doing something, and they skip their subjects and I find out about it, which I will find out about it, they have to make up all of those assignments that they've missed. Again, it's teaching them that they have to choose their heart. They choose to be self-controlled and temperance, and they choose to do what they need to do in that moment, or they choose to have to make it up later. And all of this sounds like I am a mean homeschool mom, I'm sure. The reason why it's so beneficial is because I've seen the growth that it puts in my kids. And I've seen how my kids are going into preteens and teenage years, and I can actually trust them. Like I can actually look at them and be like, hey, did you get this accomplished? And because I've seen their lives and their track records, I can be like, I can take them at their word because we've gone through some of those hard lessons. And if you are in a season where you are going through those hard lessons, mama, don't give up. Don't give up on enforcing those things that maybe seem monotonous and seem like, oh, I'm just enforcing another homework thing. Oh, we're going through math. Oh, great. We're going through another thing. Continue to enforce what is good for them, because what you get at the end of the day is a beautiful output of all of those hard day inputs. You know, it reminds me of a Bible verse where it says, don't grow weary in well doing, because at the end you will reap a harvest. And so if you keep sowing good seed, eventually you do reap a good harvest. And so I want to encourage you with that. If you have not, and you are just like, you know what, I don't have very good defined rules, think about what is important for your family. Think about the things that will be important in the future for your children. And instilling things of self-accountability is so wonderful. It gives them the option to grow as a human being and to become a good, responsible adult. And so obviously I want them to be Christian. I want them to know the Lord. I want them to have a good relationship with Jesus. And I want to do my part in raising good children and steward my children well. And so if you have any questions, or if you have any ideas of rules to enforce or things that you've enforced in your homeschool that have greatly benefited you, please drop a comment in below. I look forward to seeing some of your answers. All right, well, I'm signing off. I hope you have a wonderful day or night, whenever you're watching, and God bless and have a great night.